Colossal Order, the developer behind the Cities in Motion series, has gone beyond bus routes and metro stations and decided to take on the entire city building genre. The evolution feels natural, and with their traffic programs solidly in place, all they'd need to do is get the rest of it right. Right? Well, it seems so. Though Colossal Order is only a super tiny team of developers, they've managed to put together a fine video game that I'm happy to stamp with my first worth buying seal of the year. At first glance, there's no denying its resemblance to 2013's SimCity, and absolutely everyone will be making comparisons. They look a lot alike, they have very similar interfaces, and they're both city builders. I've put a ton of time into Cities Skylines, and I feel like there's still a lot I can learn from it, namely that I should never ever be in charge of real city planning. Skylines took me a bit to get a good handle on its controls and functions, and that's largely due to the in-game tutorials. Its manner of teaching is not instruction, but instead correction. The game won't show you the proper way to install power lines, but it will correct you when they aren't connected properly. The game won't teach you how the power grid system works within Cities Skylines, but you hear from citizens about how they're still within a blackout, and they'll eventually leave your town. You learn from your mistakes. And that's a big difference compared to many games within the past 10 years that deliberately teach and expect the player to mimic actions that are shown by the game. This mentality of learning from your mistakes might be a huge turnoff to some, but I feel that most City Builder fans are going to enjoy it more. The thrill of discovery of how the game works is somehow tied to the overall enjoyment of the game. And yes, the game is very enjoyable. This is the type of experience where you promise to only play for a few minutes during a break and end up playing for hours. Gamers map out roadways and then delineate zones within the system. Residential, high-density residential, commercial, high-density commercial, office, industrial zones, they all eventually become available to the player. Essentially, the game is about balance of all of these zones, but you also have to make sure you're fulfilling basic needs for your citizens. Clean water, health, safety, power, trash services. You can also gussy up the place and make your citizens happier by installing streets adorned with trees, placing parks throughout the city, supplying your citizens with more and better education options. You can even specify which type of industry you want in place by painting in zones over natural resources in the map. And of course, you want to make sure they have proper roads to drive on that lead to the places they want to go to without jamming the entire place up. It's pretty, the interface is straightforward and easy to understand, it runs super smoothly. I didn't crash a single time, and as far as the game goes, I didn't experience any game-destroying balancing problems with things like flow of traffic. What's really neat about the game is you can expand your city's boundaries by simply purchasing more land if you meet the population criteria, and if you have the cash. This can open up harbors for you, give you access to more highways and train lines, lets you control the highways themselves. This method lets players build enormous cities. Cities Skylines might not be as feature-rich as SimCity, but what it does well, and it does it without hiccups. Now, where is Cities Skylines lacking? Well, for starters, the mega dynamic disasters of SimCity are not present here. Your citizens will not be abducted by aliens, be eaten by a Godzilla-like monster, and meteors will not come and destroy a chunk of the city. So if you're looking for something a little wackier, you probably won't find it here, unless you like to create your own mischief, like seeing what happens if you build up a gigantic city and then turning off all the healthcare. For me, this isn't a big turnoff. My biggest gripe with Cities Skylines is its lack of a Control-Z function. Undo! Undo! The game runs similarly to an art program, and having a Control-Z option feels like it should be there. There's nothing like accidentally planting a complex $25,000 highway on-ramp solution that you can't automatically hit Control-Z and try again. You have to bust out the bulldozer and tear it down piece by piece. I also wish the specialty buildings did a little bit more. As it is, they simply exist and improve morale for the area, or they might increase tourism a little bit. It would be neat if they opened up access to new sub-buildings or new types of services. Something that SimCity did better, and might be a source of initial frustration for people, the game does not come with a circular or square road tool. Everything has to be done line by line. I'm hoping that's a feature that maybe can be added in later? Or perhaps the solution will be as simple as downloading various prefabricated circles from the Steam Workshop. But really, that's about it. For a $30 game, players get a lot of value out of Cities Skylines. I wholeheartedly recommend it. The game supports Steam Workshop, and for those inclined, it even has some modding tools built in. With Colossal Order promising to continue development on the game after launch, truly, the sky is the limit with this one. It may take a while for some people to learn the ropes. It took about 7 or 8 tries for me to develop a city that didn't instantly crash and burn. And no, there's not a whole lot of generic exciting things that happen in this game like mass fires or famine or droughts, but I feel like there's a lot that can be done with Cities Skylines, and I personally eagerly await to see what kind of cool creations people will start to show off. This video is made possible through generous fan donations on Patreon.